I never planned to hide who I was. I just wanted a normal life. I grew up in a small, hard-working family in Boston. My dad was a mechanic who came home every night with greasy hands and tired eyes. My mom worked 2 nursing shifts back-to-back just so I could get a good education. They didn't have much, but they always told me that success wasn't about how much money you had, it was about who you were inside. Emily, my mom would always say, it's not what you own, it's who you are. Those words stayed with me. When I was 23, I started a small consulting company in my garage. I worked night and day, and slowly, it grew. A couple of years later, it became MTech Solutions, a tech consulting company now worth over $200 million. But I never showed off. I didn't buy designer bags or flash fancy cars. I liked staying behind the scenes. I was proud of what I built, but I didn't need the world to clap for me. And then I met Michael. We met at a small coffee shop. I was dressed in jeans and a sweater, buried in contract papers, when he accidentally bumped into me and spilled my coffee everywhere. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," he said, scrambling to save my papers. I smiled, even though the papers were million-dollar contracts. "It's okay," I said, trying not to laugh. His face turned red. He was nervous, but in a sweet way. "I'm Michael," he said, still embarrassed. "Let me buy you another coffee?" "Emily," I said, "and sure, I'll take that coffee." That coffee led to dinner, and dinner led to a relationship. Michael was kind, humble, and genuine. He was a high school teacher who loved his job. He didn't care about money or status, and he never asked much about mine. I told him I worked at MTech Solutions as an executive assistant. It wasn't a lie. I did oversee a lot of things, but I didn't tell him I was the founder and CEO. I just wanted someone to love me for me, not for my title, not for my money. Everything was going well, until I met his mother. Victoria Patterson was intense. Her house was filled with fake designer handbags, and she loved to brag about her connections to important people. From the moment she met me, she didn't like me. "A secretary?" she asked at our first dinner, frowning. "Michael, didn't I introduce you to that surgeon's daughter?" "Mom," Michael said quietly, clearly annoyed. "I just think," she continued, "for someone from the Patterson family, you should aim a little higher. We have standards, after all." I wanted to laugh. Michael had already told me the truth about their finances. They lived off credit cards and fake appearances. But I stayed calm. "I like my job," I said, "it's fulfilling." She just sniffed and gave me a fake smile. "Well, someone has to do it." At every family event, she found ways to put me down. One Christmas, she gave me a plain office planner. "For keeping your boss's schedule," she said, smirking. Michael always apologized later, but he never stood up to her. I understood. Family can be complicated. Then, one Sunday dinner, everything changed. Victoria walked in holding a newspaper. "MTech Solutions is looking for a new CEO," she said loudly. "This is my chance." I nearly choked on my drink. It was true, we were looking for someone, but it was a very serious search. "You're applying?" Michael asked, surprised. "Of course," she said proudly. "I have 20 years in MLM sales. It's time I step into something bigger." Then she turned to me. "Emily, put in a good word, will you? Though I doubt your recommendation means much." I smiled politely. "I'll see what I can do." She waved me off. "No need, I already have connections. The board will love my background." What she didn't know was, I was the board. A week later, she came to the company dressed in an overly fancy suit. I watched from my office as she loudly listed her credentials in the lobby. "Mrs. Patterson," my assistant said, "the board is ready." She walked into the conference room like she owned the place, until she saw me sitting at the head of the table. "Emily," she gasped, "what are you doing here?" "I'm running my company," I said. "Please, have a seat." She looked like she'd seen a ghost. "This can't be real." "It is," a board member said. Walker is our founder and majority shareholder." She sat down slowly, her mouth still open. I opened her resume. It was full of made-up jobs, exaggerated achievements, and lies. I asked her about each one. One by one, the lies fell apart. Finally, I closed the folder. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. Your application is disqualified for misrepresentation." "You can't do this to me," she yelled. "This is personal." "No," I said calmly. It's professional, but since you brought up personal, yes, I've put up with your rude comments for months. This isn't revenge, it's called consequences. She stormed out, furious. A minute later, Michael called. Mom's crying, he said, walking into my office. She said you're her boss. What's going on? I took a deep breath. Michael, I need to tell you something. I haven't been completely honest with you. I never wanted to lie, but I didn't want money to get in the way. He followed me to the window and looked around my office, at the view, the plaques on the wall, and the nameplate on my desk. Emily Walker, founder and CEO. So, you're not a secretary, he said quietly. No, I said. I built MTech from scratch when I was 23. He looked hurt. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted someone to love me for me, I said, not for my company, not for my net worth, just me. He sighed. I get that, but you let my mom treat you like garbage. You could have ended this sooner. And what would that prove? I asked. That she was right to worship money and status? I didn't want to play that game. He nodded slowly. You're right, and I should have defended you. I'm sorry. Just then, the office door flew open. Victoria stormed in, dragging her husband, George, behind her. There she is, she yelled, the liar, the manipulator. George stepped forward. Emily, this feels wrong. You rejected her because you don't like her. I pressed a button on my desk. A recording of the interview played, Victoria's exaggerated claims, her fake experience, her awkward answers. This wasn't personal, I said. It was based on facts. She lied. The board decided. Victoria was furious. You think you've won? She screamed. Just wait until people hear how the fake secretary tricked her way into our family. Mom, stop, Michael shouted. Just stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Victoria stared at him in shock. I'm embarrassing you? She's the one. I know exactly who she is, Michael said, turning to me, and I'm proud of her. Victoria didn't respond. She just stood there, fuming. George stayed quiet. I took Michael's hand. Now you know everything, I said. It's your choice what comes next. He looked at me, his eyes steady. I'm staying, he said, with you. And in that moment, I realized something. I never needed to hide. I just needed the right person to see me, the real me. Spat, I repeated. Michael shook his head firmly. No, Emily only kept one thing from you, her job. You, on the other hand, have lied about almost everything. You've pretended about our family status, your connections, your success. It's all been fake, and I'm done going along with it. Victoria's mouth dropped open. Her eyes darted to Michael, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. George gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Let's go, Victoria, he said softly. This has gone far enough. She yanked her arm away, glaring at both of us. This isn't over, she hissed as George led her out. You'll regret this, both of you. The door slammed shut behind them, and the office fell into an eerie silence. Michael turned to me, looking exhausted but steady. I'm sorry for everything my family has put you through, he said quietly, but I need to know something. What happens next? Where do we go from here? Before I could answer, the intercom buzzed. Miss Walker, my assistant said nervously, sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Patterson is in the lobby. She's causing a scene. Security wants to know what to do. Michael and I locked eyes. We'll handle it together, he said. I pressed the button on the intercom. Send the security footage to my laptop. Don't intervene unless she disrupts operations. On the screen, we watched Victoria pacing in the lobby. She was stopping employees, ranting about me. Most people ignored her. Some rolled their eyes, but then she pulled out her phone. She's stealing clients, she shouted. I have proof, real proof. I have financial documents from Patterson Insurance. My stomach dropped. Those files were confidential. Michael's face went pale. She works in middle management. She must have dug into files she wasn't supposed to access. I was already dialing. Mr. Patterson, this is Emily Walker, your employee, Victoria Patterson, is in my lobby threatening to expose confidential client records. I paused as he answered, yes, I'll hold. On the screen, Victoria kept yelling. I'll ruin her. She's been stealing our best clients. I have everything I need. Then, a calm but firm voice interrupted the chaos. Victoria Patterson. A sharp-looking woman in a tailored suit walked in with two men beside her. She had a badge clipped to her jacket. "I'm Susan Chen," she said, "legal counsel for Patterson Insurance. Victoria, you are hereby suspended pending investigation. You've violated your non-disclosure agreement and engaged in what we believe to be attempted corporate espionage." Victoria stumbled back, her voice trembling. "No, you don't understand." "We understand perfectly," Susan said coldly. "Your access to files has been under review for weeks. This outburst only confirmed our concerns." We watched in silence as security escorted Victoria out. Her protests faded with every step. Michael sat frozen, struggling to process what had just happened. "I didn't know she was capable of this," he said softly. "It's not your fault," I told him, "but we need to deal with this, honestly, with your family, my family, and with us. With our everything," he said, his voice steady now. As the door closed behind Victoria for the last time, I turned to Michael. "You knew about her poor job performance?" he asked. "I found out during the merger talks," I said. "I wanted to help her quietly, find a role that suited her better. It's part of why I kept my identity secret. I needed to understand the full picture before making any big decisions." Mr. Patterson had stayed behind quietly. Now, he stepped forward. "That kind of empathy is rare," he said. "It's one reason I agreed to the merger. Don't worry, we'll handle Victoria's case discreetly, for Michael's sake." After he left, Michael and I sat quietly in the office. He stared out the window, deep in thought. "I need some time," he said finally, "to think, to process." I nodded. "Take all the time you need." At the door, he paused, then he looked back at me. "For what it's worth," he said, "I fell in love with Emily the secretary. Finding out you're the CEO, it doesn't change how I feel, it just means there's more of you to admire, and to understand." After he left, I sat at my desk, watching the sun set behind the city skyline. My phone buzzed. It was a message from George. "Victoria's home. She's devastated. She knows what she's lost. When you're ready, we'd like to talk, all of us. Family shouldn't end like this." The following week, I buried myself in work. I gave Michael and his family space. Meanwhile, the media caught wind of what happened. 2 merging companies, a public meltdown, and a possible lawsuit. It was big news. Thankfully, both PR teams worked hard to contain the fallout. One evening, just as I was reviewing final documents, my assistant buzzed in again. "Miss Walker, the Patterson family is here to see you." They walked in together, George calm and steady, Michael unreadable, and Victoria, changed. She looked smaller somehow. No designer clothes, just a simple suit. Her eyes were red, her expression hesitant. "Emily," George began gently, "we'd like to talk, all of us." Victoria stepped forward, hands twisting nervously. "I've been in therapy all week," she said, "intensive therapy. Losing the promotion, everything I worked for, it broke me. I built my whole identity around being important, connected. When it crumbled, I didn't know who I was anymore." "You tried to fix it by taking more," I said quietly. She nodded, tearfully. "When I heard about the CEO position, I convinced myself I deserved it. I told myself I was being overlooked. Then I found out who you really were, and it shattered me." "Mom," Michael said gently, "there's more you need to tell her." Victoria took a deep breath. "I've struggled for a long time," she admitted. "I have a shopping addiction. I lied about our family's status for years. It started when George's business ran into trouble a decade ago. I couldn't handle the truth, so I made up a fantasy instead." George sighed, his voice full of guilt. "I let it happen. I thought pretending we were fine would somehow make things better, but it only made things worse." Victoria looked at me nervously. "Is the merger still happening?" "Yes," I said softly. "You hurt both companies, but that doesn't erase your years of work. There's a retirement package included for long-time employees. It's yours if you want it." She stared at me in disbelief. "After everything I did?" "Everyone deserves a second chance," I said, "but there are conditions, ongoing therapy, an honest transition through HR, and, above all, being truthful, with yourself and others." Victoria broke down, finally letting her walls fall. "I'm sorry, Emily, for how I treated you, for what I said. I was cruel." Michael came to my side and took my hand. "We've all learned something," he said. "Mom, about honesty. Dad, about enabling. Me, about standing up. And Emily, about trusting people with the truth. I nodded, and about moving forward. 2 months later, Victoria quietly retired. The merger was finalized. She began volunteering at a financial literacy program, helping others avoid the mistakes she once made. At our wedding the following spring, Victoria gave a speech that made everyone tear up. A year ago, I thought appearances were everything, but Emily showed me what really matters: how you treat people. She gave our family a second chance, not because she had to, but because she cared. Michael squeezed my hand beneath the table. We had rebuilt everything, from the ground up, this time with honesty. As I looked around, I saw a new kind of family: George laughing with my father, Victoria helping my mother arrange flowers, former employees chatting like old friends. Michael leaned in. Happy? He whispered. Very, I said with a smile, though I do miss that secretary desk sometimes. He chuckled. Well, your assistant is going on maternity leave. Don't tempt me. I laughed. I might just go undercover again. Victoria overheard and joined in the laughter, genuine, full, and free. And as the celebration continued, I thought back to that first spilled cup of coffee. It had all started there. Sometimes, the greatest blessings come out of the biggest messes. And success? It's not money or titles, it's second chances, it's growth, it's having the courage to be exactly who you are. And never pretending to be anything less.